Another positive read on inflation with a lower US PPI, but is the rally running out of steam? Lithium stocks have had a tough day. Is supply finally catching up with demand? And might this spike the end of the lithium rally? And has the double bay Jesus, or is it genius, worked a miracle at AGL? I'm Peter Switzer, he's Paul Rickard, and even though I'm in Queensland, I'm still mad about money. Well, Paul, another good read on inflation. Why don't you explain it to the team?
Yeah, look, our producer price index last night, Peter, only up 0.2% for the month. I think the market was expecting about 0.4%. So these are the measure of inflation before the goods are made. In other words, what are the wholesalers and manufacturers paying for raw materials? So that's a pretty good number. And I guess that just continues the news we've had in the last couple of weeks about inflation in the US. But really, Peter, I still think the market wants a little bit more. It's been quite a big rally. The next, CPI numbers out just after or just before the Fed meets in December. That's probably going to be as important just to make sure that the trend is heading in the right direction. And I guess we're seeing noises out of some of the Federal Reserve officials, and we'll see more noises over the coming weeks about sort of not repeating the mistakes of the 1970s and not taking off the brakes too early and staying with the course. So I think there's a bit of jawboning here to come, Peter, in terms of just what the Fed's going to say about interest rates. And still, I think the betting is for at least 0.5% increase. I wouldn't rule out yet 0.75% in December.
Yeah. The important point is, Paul, this is a part of the data drop program that the market's going to watch between the last inflation number, the CPI number last week, and all the way to the next one on December 13. We're going to watch them very carefully. And I guess you have to say the first drop of data has been better than expected. If that continues, the rally will take off again, I think, and become quite sustainable and maybe create the mother of all Santa Claus rallies. But we will have to see some substantial proof that inflation is on the way down. And the important point, Paul, is this is the goods part of inflation. Some of the analysis out there shows that services part of the inflation, wages and whatever, are still remaining pretty high. But still, it's a good step in the right direction. I think you're right. The rally will be tested over the next few weeks, but we've got to say it's a nice development because PPI is something that the central bank in the US watches pretty carefully. Now, lithium, you've always predicted that eventually the supply would catch up. Is that what's happening now? To explain why lithium share price is on the way down?
Well, it looks like a little bit. I mean, again, this is not actual supply. This is just forecast. And look, I've always been a little bit cautious on lithium, Peter, not because I can read every forecast that tells me how big demand is going to be. We all know electric vehicles are going to take off. But, eventually, like in every other commodity, the history of commodities since, Adam was a boy, that when prices go up, well, guess what? New supply comes on stream. And that's exactly what's going to happen with lithium. So I've always been a little bit should I say, a bit more circumspect about some of the forecasts. And when the price of the commodity has gone up so much, we know that supply will eventually meet demand. So I'm not surprised we're starting to get this. I'm not sure this is the end of the lithium rally, Pete, but I think, we've seen, I really like Pilbara Minerals back in June when it was just above $2. When it got to $5.50 the other week, I said, well, hang on, sometimes you just got to let this stuff run out because you're too late. And I guess this is what I'm thinking. So not surprised there's a big pullback. I reckon there's going to be a lot of volatility in lithium. Buy it when it comes off. But like in every other commodity, supply will eventually catch up. Lithium is not a rare metal, right? It's around everywhere. So it's not hard. It's just a question of the effort to actually harness it and produce it. And I've always been a bit wary on it. So that's what the market is saying yesterday. I would just say some nerves in the rally, Pete.
Yeah, and I think you're right. There are going to be times when it's going to be good to buy lithium. And as the real use of lithium, as the proliferation of batteries and electric vehicles really grows, it'll come again. But you're going to have to pick the right time to get in on these lithium stocks. And probably now is a good time to stay out and wait for a low. And probably would be a reasonable entry point. Let's go to the final one. Now, the critics of Mike Cannon-Brookes have called him the double bay Jesus. But given what he's done at AGL, he might be the double bay genius, because he's worked a miracle at trumping the AGL board, hasn't he, Paul?
Well, he has indeed. And look, that's not a title we gave him. That's a title that's been labelled by a few newspapers. And I guess that when you've got X billions of dollars and you're out there fighting the good cause, it's easy for people to take, shots at him. But he believes what he's saying. Look, the directors he nominated, to their credit, were all pretty independent people. So let's hope that the infighting at AGL is over, because it's been really damaging for shareholders, right? There's no doubt about it. It's a company where most of its money is made on producing electricity out of coal, and Mike and a few others want to change it and want to move faster in the direction of a green energy company. That's going to take a lot of work, a lot of investment. And poor shareholders, have seen, what was trading. It got to almost $30 about 4 or 5 years ago when the market loved it. When the market doesn't love it, and it got down to about $6.50. So it's been a massive fall for grace for AGL. Let's hope that the board can now get behind a single plan and take the company forward. And I think, look, the market has spoken, the directors of the shareholders have spoken, but also, as the AFR reported this morning, the comment that got the biggest noise yesterday and the biggest response from any of the shareholders of the meeting was a comment from an investor who bought at $18, seen his shares fall to $6 or $7, and wanted the company to focus on how to get the share price up again. That's what it needs to do, and let's hope the board can now get around a single plan and drive AGL forward.
Yeah, and look, you and I have been watching companies for a long time. It's very rare that this kind of thing comes about. I think Kerry Schott got over 80-odd% support. It's very interesting, and I think while his critics might call him the double bay genius, and it does look as though he's performed a miracle, he may well go down as double bay genius if AGL as a company can go in the right direction and the share price goes up. The share price went down yesterday, but that's not a surprise. I think it was a bit of a surprise that his plan got up. But it's going to be very interesting to see how AGL performs over the next year or so. I do think that if there's any blackouts, there will be critics who will be blaming Mike Cannon-Brookes. But I think what we saw at the last election, a lot of Australians are supporting climate change activists. And this is just a new sign of it. It was politics at the last election, and now it's economics. And we're in for a new age, Paul.
Well, there's no doubt that the majority of the population wants action. Thinks that coal and carbon fuels are on the way out, and companies like AGL that make their money at it need to transition. And that's how the shareholders have also voted. So you can't deny the force of this. It's about getting the right sort of plan to go forward. And look, and to Mike's credit, these were a very talented group of directors that were nominated. These weren't just Johnny-come-latelys who were going to do exactly what he's saying. He chose some very, very credible people in their field to go on the board. And I think that's why put Mike Cannon-Brookes to one side. The super funds, the big owners of AGL shares, they decided to back that team. They're a really credible set of director candidates. So let's hope now the company moves forward, makes the transition, because that's what the market, it's what shareholders want to see happen. So it's now got to get the way to do that, and in a way that preserves shareholder value, and that's the challenge for AGL going forward.
Yeah, without a doubt. He's Paul Rickard, I'm Peter Switzer, and we're mad about money.